Good morning, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center, Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is a Friday. Woohoo! Thank God it's Friday. We made it through this week. It is Friday the 5th, and the moon is in Cancer. Today we have, I guess, two things I want to talk about. We have a last quarter moon today, fourth quarter. Meaning that the sun and the moon are in a last quarter square to each other. This is a crisis in consciousness, a crisis in belief. This is the point in the lunation cycle where we start to reorient ourselves, and we, in a way, move into a position of taking authority in our own lives and starting to become sort of a self-actualized and a little more self-reliant sort of energy, where we decide that we've had our interactions with society, and we are uniquely able to kind of be our own boss in this. And yet, in that moment of being your own boss, you also sort of realize that nobody does anything alone. And so a reorientation and a reorganization and bringing us into a more egalitarian perspective. Now, of course, this is the sun and the moon, and this happens every month. And if we have a particularly powerful moon to start this lunation cycle, and of course they've all been powerful new moons. This last one was a new moon in Virgo, and it was in a very tight trine to Uranus. And so that brought on a lot of change, a lot of things we haven't seen before. And certainly we've seen that in the political situation in the U.S. I think we also see it in the issues around funding the Ukraine war, something that we would normally be all hepped up to do. Now there's been this doubt sort of seeded into the whole situation. And, unfortunately, I think Putin was waiting for that to happen, and he has his minions that work that angle, as it were. But, we still need to figure out a way to move forward in a way that's not going to perpetuate things. The old ways don't really work, and yet we do need to put our energy behind those things that are aligned with our higher aspirations. And democracy really is a very high aspiration, and miraculously still around. So there's that. Now let's talk about the other thing. The other thing is a inconjunct between Venus and Pluto. That occurred early this morning. We're still feeling it. Actually, Venus has been in the crosshairs of a Yod now for at least a week. And but she had not been out of her shadow yet. She had not stepped out of her shadow. And she's almost there. When she went into her retrograde station, she was very close to an inconjunct with Pluto, but never quite got there. And so then she started to back up. She was still influenced, but it wasn't exact. And early this morning, it was exact. However, Pluto has moved back far enough where, as far as the degree that she went retrograde, she's still not to that degree. So she's not quite out of her shadow, but she is coming out of her shadow. And I believe that's happening this weekend. And then as she comes out of her shadow, she's going to be in the last degree of Leo. And I've said this a couple of times in the morning. Then she moves into Virgo, which she's not so thrilled with. She doesn't love being in Virgo, but she will work Virgo. But then she comes up against Saturn, because Saturn is at about the first degree of Pisces. So Venus comes out of her shadow. She's like, I made it. And then she faces Saturn in Pisces. So there's this energy of just about ready to come out, thinking that perhaps you're gonna shine and you're gonna get your point across, which actually could happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But then you face Saturn, and Saturn says what works and what doesn't work. And so we're really getting down to how things are working in your life, especially in your relationships. And we can see this in the outer world. We can see how dysfunctional relationships are affecting, situations, organizations. I mean, you could just look at the Republican Party. How are they relating to each other, I think that it's very interesting that we see Trump coming to the end of his tether when it comes to his brand, the lie, that whole big lie, which if you lived in the New York, New Jersey area, you knew who he was. That's why nobody in New York, I think 10% of New York voted for him. Of course, that's way more people than, say, people in, not Wisconsin, where's that place? Wyoming, right? How many people in Wyoming? 10% of New York City, I think would double the population of Wyoming, or more. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know numbers, so don't go by that. It's just like a supposition on my part. So don't hold me to my numbers, please. Anyway, and we're kind of seeing the sort of realization, I think, on the Republicans' part, that they put their money on a losing horse. And there have been people saying that, and certainly those of us, us smart people from the beginning knew that. But they got pretty far. I mean, they got a lot of what they want to get. I mean, who am I to say, right? But now the honeymoon's over, and now they see, now they see who they married, and they're looking across at the other pillow and going, oh shit. So we can see that happening in the Republican Party, but that it could be happening in our lives as well. Relationships we thought were one thing, we come to a realization that, wait a minute, and in that case, we have to roll up our sleeves and renegotiate. Remember, I said when the nodes moved into Aries and Libra back in July with Pluto in a very tight square to them, that we were going to be renegotiating relationships, and that is really the story, guys. That's what's happening, and we're watching it. And you may have it in your life, or sometimes it's simply the relationship to yourself. Are you giving yourself the time? Are you caring for yourself in the way that you need to? Or are you avoiding relationship? I mean, after COVID, it's very easy to get sort of stuck in your rut, as it were. So lots of renegotiation of relationships, lots of looking at things. Jealousy and the like can come up. Control issues can come up with this inconjunct. But we will free ourselves from this stuff. So things will improve, but it is going to take time and effort. Charlie, where are you, baby? Kitty bumps. Kitty bumps. All right. Well, that's the story, Morning Glories. Have a wonderful day. We have another sort of, it's not quite misty, but it is kind of overcast. So I have some doors outside. I'm going to have to go get them and bring them in the house. I painted them yesterday, and they were drying in the sun. So, all right, guys, take care. Much love. Namaste.